let us have a look at the principles. They could appear to be similar to what we have done. So it could be like empower teams, early visibility, embrace change. Some of these we've already discussed, so I will not spend much time on those. Continuous delivery, collaborative working, sustainable development. It's not development once. Retrospect and adapt, the same as what we just discussed. Self-organizing teams again. Focus and prioritize. Just focus on things that is important. Again, minimalism. Technical design excellency, engage and communicate, track progress in terms of the assessment, looking back, objective as well as subjective assessment of how the product is being shaped, how your processes are, how you're working, the team, all of these. So let us look at each of them in detail. Again, these are the 12 principles, as I say. Empower teams, I have talked about it, needless to say, very, 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 very vital to the success of agile teams. It's important to talk about the ownership of processes, products, initiatives, ideas, ways of working. Everything is actually in the team. Very important. Nobody's telling the team as to what they should do in agile. They come up with. So when you talk about what is a team, we'll talk about that in greater detail when we go through the Scrum methodology next week, and then Lean and Safe every week. We'll take that up. So we'll go through each one of those. What are the roles? What do you mean by team? So who are in the team? So we'll talk about that. So typically, just to actually give you the kind of the team is the people who are working on the product to deliver it. So it could be it's called a Scrum team or Scrum development team, SDT. So in the context of Scrum, it could be the developers, testers, business analysts, architects, subject matter experts, all the people who are part of the team. And then separately, you've got somebody else called product owner, who actually lays down the product for this, the roadmap for this product, guides the features, which features should go when, the prioritization, all of that stuff that we discussed yesterday and day before. Those would be done by one person who has got the role of a product owner. And then the third role in Scrum is called Scrum Master. It's not like a manager. It's not a project manager. Most of the people actually get this fallacy, get confused between these two, and they think that a project manager is a Scrum Master. No, the Scrum Master is, again, it could be a part of, it could be the person within the team, but they can actually put on the role, put on the hat of a Scrum Master to facilitate the team. If there are any problems, any kind of issues, they can actually come in and then take out those, or discuss with the relevant people in the management, get the support. So basically, they're like facilitators and enablers within the organization, within the team. So you just have 3 roles within Scrum. So that's the team. So when you talk about team, the team is pretty much like self-contained, so they can take decisions, they can own up, and they can deliver. And because of the fact that they've got the ownership, it obviously means that they're taking more and more responsibilities, accountability. So it's not finger pointing. It's not about somebody failing or somebody doing a wrong thing in the code, or somebody not testing properly, or the analyst not doing the requirement in a right way, or not writing up the user story in the right way. It's about the team. So we are talking about the team as a whole. If there's something problem that happened, then the team is responsible. They all collective ownership of the problem, of the issue, and then they would make sure they come up with ideas to sort that out. It's not finger pointing. Is it the problem with the developer, this tester, that analyst, this architect? No, it's the collective ownership. Again, very, very powerful concept. That's why Agile is successful. Team estimate, team commit, and then they deliver, and they actually own up the whole thing. Again, very, very wide. I keep repeating this. Very vital, very, very important for Agile. This is the kind of base for the whole of Agile methodologies, team empowerment. Early visibility, you give the early visibility of the product to them. That's the reason why you're doing this, is because it's the working product that you're delivering, not the documents. You're not delivering like after 7 months, 500 pages of document. You're actually delivering after 3 weeks of the project start. You're delivering something that they can actually get to see, like the home page, the catalog page, item details page, the shopping cart. They can actually get to see these, play around with that, work with those, and then actually come back with the feedback. So they're getting this product, the feel of the product, immediately in the next few weeks and months, rather than in the next 5 years, 3 years, 2 years. So you're potentially delivering the shippable product, which means after every sprint, you're actually adding more and more functionality, more and more features, And it's in a stage where you can actually go live with that. It's in such a way. And that's why it's important that we have got this release plan about the catalog to be done by November, shopping cart to be done by February, the payment gateway to be done by April, which is accepting credit card. So you see that there is some sense of visibility that you're providing to the customer, adding more and more value incrementally. Use demos, showcases, again, very show and tell. And you invite the customers, you invite their stakeholders, their teams, and the customers, customer representatives, proxy customers, all of them into the room. You actually showcase, or perhaps you can have an online session where you share the screen, you actually let them have a play around with this particular website, the web application, the product, and they could give the feedback then and there instead of actually waiting for 2 years, like in the Waterfall. So that's the beauty of Agile. So you actually get the early visibility of the product from the customer to the customers. They give the feedback early as well. So you can quickly course correct your change. That's why the changes could come from the customers immediately, and then you are accepting the changes, right? You're accepting the changes, the defects that the customer would report on your product after 3 weeks. You accept the change, you work on that quickly, because you know that if you keep it like this, the defect for that, it could grow from a cub to a tiger, as I say. So don't let the defects and the bugs remain. So you work on that. You actually fix the defects. You work on the changes, and you try and incorporate the functionality as quickly as possible. Be nimble, embrace and adapt change. Again, this is what we were discussing, that we should be nimble. We should be ready to accept change from wherever it is coming from. In fact, there was a saying I quite like in one of the Hindu Rigveda. It's called Rigveda, which was the ancient scriptures, about a good few thousand-year-old scripture. It talks about, one of the things that it talks about is the fundamental thing that I always keep in my mind, in my life and in my career. It says, the literal translation of that is basically, it says, let truth and good come from all sides. So that's that simple saying of that Rigveda, that one particular scripture from I think one of the Upanishads in this Rigveda, written about 6,000, 7,000 years old. It talks about truth and good. Whether if there's something that is true, if it is something that is good, then accept it, embrace it, and let it come from any side. Let it come from a small boy, or let it come from somebody who you don't know. Let it come from your enemy. Let it come from some other completely different country, different continent. Doesn't matter. Embrace it because it is good. It is true. So embrace it, and then adapt yourself. So that's the beauty of this. And the same thing, if there is a change that is coming in from the customer, from your own team, from your competitor, from the market force, fair enough, accept it. Take the change in, chuck it into the backlog, prioritize it. If it is really urgent, very important, very urgent, work on it in the next sprint, and then deliver, right? So you're actually accepting yourself to be more flexible, more agile, more nimble, and that would be the only way to be heading up as a leadership. And that's why I was telling you about the example. I think that was about a good few weeks ago. We were talking about IBM. IBM was the International Business Machines. For about a good 100, 150 years, IBM has been the leader in computers, in machinery, in all these fantastic, big, huge machines. And that's where the term called IBM, International Business Machines. They were the first ones to come up with that, big computers that filled up the rooms, to a PC that is just on the desk. It's called PC, which was first invention of IBM, personal computer. So IBM had been at this business for a good 150 years. And then one fine day they said that, enough of it. We don't want to be in this space. It's not good for us. We need to move on. So they actually sold off the whole of the hardware business, the complete hardware business. They just sold off the entire business to Lenovo, a Chinese-based company, a China-based company. And then they started off only focused on the services. And that's why the IBM Global Services came into picture, IGS. And they've been doing pretty well. And compare that to, for example, a company which is which was into the Kodak, for example. Kodak was, and then there were so many other things. Polaroid, Kodak, which was producing the film rolls. and the cameras for the not the non-digital photography about a good few years ago. It was the leader in that segment for a good few years, good decades. Kodak was coming up with fantastic, faster, more quicker capturing, film rolls and things like that. But they just died sudden death one day. In the last, I think that was about 2 years ago, they declared bankrupt and they just closed. Why? Because they were not able to adapt to the change. They were not able to adapt to the digital ways of working, come up with a digital photography, or even work with other competitors, work with the phones and give them better lenses. They didn't do that. They just were focusing on making better and better film rolls, which are of no use now. So they had to, because they're not nimble, they're not adaptive. Whereas IBM realized that it doesn't matter how heavy you are, how big you are, how fantastic you are, it doesn't matter. What matters is how nimble you are, how flexible you are with the changing times. And so they actually turned themselves to be profitable because they realized that they need to be more aligned to